You know that feeling when you open a bag of chips and realize it's 85% air? Yeah, that's what most financial advice feels like. Big promises, loud packaging. But when you get inside, not much there. Just crumbs and disappointment. But here's the wild part. There's one trick the rich use all the time that's kind of like finding a secret pocket inside that chip bag with another full bag inside. And for some reason, they never talk about it on morning shows or in your high school economics class. Meet Sophia. She's not a hedge fund manager. She's not married to a tech bro. She doesn't own a yacht or a company named after a single letter. But Sophia knows the trick, and she's been using it for years. Backstory. Sophia used to be a graphic designer who freelanced out of cafes with Wi-Fi so slow it felt like it ran on hamster wheels. She made decent money, lived pretty frugally, did everything right, at least according to normal people money rules. Budget, save, don't buy too many candles that smell like forest rain and regret. But one day she was listening to a podcast where a guy casually mentioned that the wealthy don't just earn money, they multiply it using leverage. Now Sophia had heard of leverage. She assumed it was something only Wall Street dudes in suspenders said while yelling at Bloomberg terminals. But the guy explained it in the weirdest, simplest way. He said, imagine you could get a loan for 3%, invest that money into something that pays 7%, and just keep the difference forever. Sophia's brain paused. Wait, is that legal? She thought. It is. It's called capital arbitrage, or as Sophia now calls it, rich people geometry. Basically, the wealthy borrow cheap money and use it to buy assets that earn more than the cost of borrowing. Your bank pays you 0.5% on savings. The rich borrow that money from the bank and earn 8% by investing it into real estate, private equity, or the stock market. Then they deduct the loan interest from their taxes. And then they smile quietly while the rest of us argue over whether we should skip coffee to retire early. Sophia was shook. She started digging deep. Turns out, rich people don't just make money off income. They make money off money they don't even own. They borrow it, use it, grow it. And because it's technically debt, they often pay fewer taxes on it. Here's how it works in real life. Let's say Sophia has $100,000 in assets, investments, property, whatever. Now, instead of selling those assets and paying capital gains tax, she gets a loan using them as collateral. Let's say the loan rate is 3%. Meanwhile, her assets are earning 7 to 8% per year on average. She pockets the difference. No taxes because she didn't sell anything. No panic because her assets are still growing. And no eating rice and beans forever budget. It felt like someone handed her the cheat code while everyone else was stuck in tutorial mode. Now let's zoom out. Why don't people talk about this? Because we're taught to fear debt, to avoid loans, to never borrow money unless it's for school or a house or a car you'll hate in 5 years. But the rich, they love debt because they know how to use it. They don't take debt to buy Gucci flip-flops and LED shower heads. They take debt to buy assets, things that grow, pay cash flow, or create equity. It's not about recklessness, it's about control. Sophia decided to test this on a small scale. She didn't go out and buy an apartment complex on credit. She took out a small business loan, just $5,000, to launch a digital product. Her interest rate was 4%. She used it to hire a designer, run Facebook ads, and build a tiny funnel for an online course she made on branding basics. That course made $800 in its first month. By month 3, it had earned $3,200. She paid off the loan in 6 months. Everything after that, pure profit. Sophia didn't go viral. She didn't start a unicorn startup. She just learned the trick, leverage. It's how people build systems that grow income without growing hours. It's how you use money you don't have to build wealth you do own. And yeah, there's risk. It's not free money. It's not just borrow and win. You need strategy, a plan, a cushion, a sense of reality that says, maybe don't max out your credit card to buy Beanie Babies. But when done right, it's the ultimate shift, from working for money to making money work for you, even if it's someone else's. And Sophia, she started seeing the game differently. While her friends were trying to save their way to freedom, cutting coupons, skipping brunch, canceling Spotify, Sophia was building. She didn't save what was left after spending. She invested what was left after automating her wealth-building machine. And that machine used leverage to grow. She borrowed at 3%, invested at 7%, reinvested the difference, again and again. She didn't tell people to do what she did. She just explained it to Thomas, her friend who used to think capital gains meant getting promoted at Monopoly. Thomas was skeptical. He was the kind of guy who paid off his student loans with a vengeance and thought credit cards were the devil's debit. But he listened. He asked questions, and he finally got it when Sophia said, "Debt is like fire. It can warm your house or burn it down. It all depends on how you use it." Thomas nodded. That made sense. So he started small. A balance transfer to consolidate high-interest debt. A low-interest personal loan to fund a certified tech boot camp. He used the loan to buy a skill. That skill got him a new job. That job gave him a higher salary and a signing bonus. He paid off the loan in 9 months. And now, he's thinking about his first investment property. Not because he's rich, but because he finally learned the trick. And the trick isn't complicated. It's just never handed out at your local bank. Because if more people knew how to borrow cheap to build wealth, fewer people would be stuck in the grind. More people would say no to jobs that drained them. More people would create systems instead of budgets held together by duct tape and sad lunches. More people would stop thinking that hard work alone is the ticket. And that would change everything. And Sophia? She's still using the trick. Quietly, consistently, without the Lamborghini, without the course called Make $100 in 10 days. Just a smart system. Just the math. And she's about to show Thomas something even deeper. They were sitting at a coffee shop, Sophia with her usual oat milk something, and Thomas sipping a latte that cost more than a stock share in the company that made the beans. She pulled out her iPad and tapped open a spreadsheet so clean and color-coded it could win awards. "This," she said, "is how the ultra-wealthy buy yachts, skyscrapers, and sometimes entire sports teams without ever selling anything." Thomas leaned in. He was trying to act casual, but his eyebrows had already crept halfway up his forehead. See, once the rich own assets, let's say a big portfolio of stocks or a bunch of real estate, they almost never sell it, because selling means taxes, and the rich do not like taxes. Thomas nodded. He once cried when TurboTax told him he owed $1,300. But instead, Sophia continued, they borrow against their assets. She tapped a cell on her screen. It showed something called a securities-backed line of credit. Thomas squinted. What's that? It's when the bank gives you a low-interest loan based on your investment portfolio. Your stocks don't go anywhere. They're just collateral. And you get the money? Yep, cash to use however you want. Thomas blinked. So they keep the stocks, still make money from them, and use the loan to live their lives? Exactly. And they don't pay tax because it's a loan? Now you're getting it. He paused, then whispered, "That's diabolical." Sophia laughed. "It's smart and legal and honestly kind of brilliant." She explained how it worked. Say someone has $5 million in a stock portfolio. Instead of selling it and triggering a huge tax bill, they take a $1 million loan against it at 3% interest. That $1 million is tax-free because loans aren't income. Meanwhile, the portfolio keeps earning 7 to 10% annually. So the interest from the portfolio pays off the loan. And if the assets keep growing, they can take out another loan later. Over and over. It's called the buy, borrow, die strategy. You buy assets, you borrow against them. And when you die, your heirs get the assets, tax-free, because of something called a step-up in basis. Thomas just stared. You're telling me there are people living tax-free, debt-funded lives, while the rest of us are trying to figure out if we can afford gas and oat milk in the same week? Sophia nodded. That's the trick, and they don't want you to know it. Because if more people figured this out, the game would change. Thomas sat back, brain halfway melted. Okay, but what about regular people? I don't have a $5 million portfolio. I have a jar labeled Emergency Burrito Fund. Sophia smiled. Same principles, smaller scale. She laid it out. Start building assets. Index funds, rental property, digital products, business equity. Anything that grows in value or earns income. As those assets grow, you can eventually borrow against them. Not to buy a jet, but to buy more assets. That's called good debt. Use those assets to generate cash flow. So you're not just saving, you're stacking. And always keep a buffer. The rich don't bet the farm. They bet the farm's cousin, who has a stable income and a flexible repayment plan. Thomas started to see it. He didn't need to be rich to start playing the rich people's game. He just needed to shift from consumer to builder, from paycheck thinking to asset thinking. He pulled out his own notebook, which had a questionable pizza stain, and wrote one sentence: "Don't just earn money, own something." That week, he made a few moves. He opened a Roth IRA, set up automatic weekly investments into a total market ETF, researched low-cost loans that could help him fund a small digital side hustle. Not to splurge, not to flex, but to build. He didn't take on wild debt or try to trade options like a sleep-deprived Reddit mod. He just applied what Sophia showed him: borrow cheap, buy smart, grow patiently, repeat. A few months later, Thomas and Sophia met up again. Thomas had earned $1,000 from his side hustle and used it to pay down the tiny loan he took to launch it. He was investing every week without even thinking about it. And he'd built an asset stack worksheet, color-coded of course, where he tracked everything he owned that made money while he wasn't looking. It wasn't flashy, but it was working. And the best part? He didn't feel behind anymore. He didn't feel like the system was rigged and he was doomed to grind forever. He felt empowered because now he had the trick. And the trick wasn't about beating the system. It was about understanding the system well enough to stop playing checkers while everyone else is playing Monopoly with cheat codes. Thomas told his cousin. His cousin told two friends. And slowly, quietly, more people started thinking differently. They stopped chasing salary bumps like they were the only goal. They started asking, "What can I own?" They stopped fearing debt and started using it as a tool. They stopped measuring wealth by how much they made and started measuring by how much they kept, grew, and controlled. And Sophia? She kept building, still borrowing, still investing, still sipping oat milk lattes while her assets did the heavy lifting. Not because she had a secret, but because she learned the secret and didn't keep it to herself. And once you know it, once you see how the wealthy build wealth with money they didn't even earn, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to thinking the only way out is working more hours or getting a fourth side hustle. You start thinking bigger, you start thinking smarter, and slowly, without anyone really noticing, you stop being part of the crowd the rich profit from and start becoming one of the people they hope doesn't figure it out. So in conclusion, the trick the rich don't want you to know? It's not some top secret stock tip. It's not buried in a Cayman Islands vault. It's right in front of you. They borrow money cheap, invest in assets that grow faster, and avoid taxes by never selling. And you? You can use the same strategy on a smaller scale starting today. Because wealth isn't just earned, it's engineered. With knowledge, with leverage, with intention. And once you learn the rules they've been playing by, you don't just survive the game, you start winning it. If you want me to make other videos explaining these topics, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.